Hi everyone. So today I would like to do an update or review of this book. It's I Am Dynamite, A Life of Nietzsche by Sue Prideaux. And if you already seen my first impressions video for this book, absolutely everything still stands. That is still my impressions of this book. It hasn't changed much from before and after reading it. So the only difference I would say is about the chronology. I mentioned as kind of a criticism in that video about why she didn't include a chronology of actual books that Nietzsche read and how they in fact impacted his intellectual development. So the update is she includes that information kind of extensively in the actual text itself. So she does go into great detail about what he read, where his influences are from, impressions of some books that he read, and inspirations, maybe a couple of authors that he actually met, a couple of quotes from books that had like an impact on him, a little bit of who's who in the publishing world when during his time. And she does cover some of the context, like the historical context, but only how it relates to Nietzsche directly and his books, maybe how they were received, why they were received that way. And there's a constant thread along the bottom for his sister. She's kind of she has this constant presence throughout his entire life. And then near the end of the book is where she just kind of emerges or takes over and becomes this dominant evil presence in his life. And near the end there's a couple pages that are exceedingly difficult to read because it's just his ideas were taken out of context and just how much they were perverted. It was a very difficult couple pages to read. It's only a few pages, but knowing a little bit about history, just the basics of World War II, is enough to know just how damaging taking his ideas out of context were. So it's only a few pages, but that's the only part of this book that was really difficult to read. The rest of it is just an absolute joy to read. It's because if you're really interested in really nerdy stuff and really bookish kind of details, it's amazing. So basically the book, I could divide it into 3 sections. The first one is when he's in his 20s and he's just really energetic and he's curious and he's just soaking up all kinds of intellectual bookish stuff. He meets Wagner at the time, and how she treats the two lives, Nietzsche's and Wagner's life, is really intriguing. How she handles her source material is very, very interesting. She organizes it really eloquently. And then in the second part, Nietzsche, he basically has his ideas all set up. He basically knows where he's going with his development. For the most part, he still has a lot of curiosity and he's still expanding on his ways of thinking. But he's calmed down a lot from part 1. And then once they get into his love story, it gets scandalous. Like, it would be like a soap opera how scandalous his love story would be. And then in the third part, that's where his sister just takes over and is weird. Like, it's not something that you would imagine could actually happen, but I guess it would make sense because of their time period. It's just surreal or unbelievable. And then you have the heartbroken, evil context, perversion, pollution of his ideas. That's absolutely heartbreaking to read. And then you have the decline of his health and his mind. And she covers that pretty well. She has some people who don't agree with his sister, who know the way that Nietzsche really was, and she is sure to include those details in this and how they tried to protect as much as they could protect. But absolutely, his life is an absolute example of the importance of context and taking ideas out of context and how they could be turned really badly. So I absolutely would recommend this for fans of philosophy, his fans of course, people who are just interested in that historical time period of World War II and the late 1800s, and a little bit of publishing history, but not too much. The publishing history is only related directly to him and his work, so it may not be interesting if you're just as a general interest for publishing history. And yeah, so that's basically my review for this. So if you want a lot more detail, then absolutely watch my first impressions, because everything is still the same. And I think these two videos could complement each other quite well in terms of a review. And that's all. So thanks very much for listening, and have a good day. That's all. Bye everyone.